Moving on now, former CIA Covert Operations Officer Michael Baker is joining us live from Idaho, United States. Thank you so much for joining us. The situation has intensified exponentially, as you know. Russian President Vladimir Putin called for military operation in Ukraine. There have been reports of explosions in Kiev and Kharkiv. As per Russian Defense Minister, Ukraine's air defenses are being disabled and Ukraine has closed its airspace. How do you assess these actions?
Well, I mean, they are following a certain methodology here that makes sense and that has been outlined by both the U.S. administration and NATO as the likely steps that would be taken as this conflict increases and should Putin decide that he wants to actually engage in this sort of military adventurism and incursion. So the cyber attacks that preceded the missile strikes, again, not unexpected. The targets for the missile strikes, also not unexpected. You do want to take out, if you're Putin and you're trying to do this in a very quick fashion, you want to take out the major infrastructure. So you're taking out power grids, you're taking out command and control centers, you're targeting airports, military facilities. So all these steps do make sense. What is missing is understanding of exactly what Putin's endgame is here. How far is he going to take this?
Right. In fact, I was just going to come to that. Just one point that I need clarity on. As per President Putin, Russia cannot develop and grow with the constant threat from Ukraine. How do you see Russia's efforts to have a hold on the security framework here? Do you see this conflict limited to eastern Ukraine?
No. I mean, at one point I had imagined that what Putin really was looking to do was to garner some wins here, was to sort of, further cement his hold on the Donbass region in the eastern portion of Ukraine, was to perhaps ensure that he could get an agreement over strategic weapons placement, and a couple other, without actually engaging in major military operations. That, turned out not to be the case. So at this point, it appears as if something has changed within Putin's calculus, and he now no longer really cares at all what the West or any rational thinking nation state believes, and is just going to march on. So it really is understanding what his plans and intentions are at this point. That's a pure speculation on the part of anyone who's not Vladimir Putin.
Right. Also, how do you think the United States, Western allies will navigate their way out of this crisis? They've constantly reiterated their support and united action in the crisis, but how actually will we see the support materialize?
Yeah, that's a very important question, and it's a very complex question. But ultimately, you have to ask yourself, what leverage do we have? President Biden in the U.S. has already declared that the U.S. will not be engaged in direct military conflict with Russia. So he's taken that off the table. Whether we were going to do it or not, I'm not sure that strategy of telling the opposition what you're willing to do and not do is particularly a good idea. So they've done that. NATO, I think, is proven itself for the most part to be unified here. There's been some concern over Germany and Germany's concern over its own energy stability. So, exactly what leverage do we have beyond increasing sanctions? But one could argue that really we should have been laying on very severe sanctions once we understood months ago that Putin was starting to move large numbers of troops and hardware to the border region. That would have been the time to try to show real strong resolve and deterrence and to get him to back off. I suspect that now sanctions aren't really going to have any impact.
Absolutely. Now also this conflict in Ukraine threatens to displace some 5 million people. What can you tell us about the broader implications of this?
Right. Well, that's been one of the major concerns as you game out where this could go, has been the concern over the refugee situation. And you can imagine the millions of displaced people perhaps flowing west through the Ukraine, but then moving into the bordering NATO countries. So you have Poland, you have Hungary, Moldova, Slovakia. So there has been discussions, there have been an effort to game this out, to understand how best to prepare for that possible scenario. But typically, the reality of it is always going to be worse than what you imagine when you're trying to game out the various potential scenarios. So it's not going to be a particularly pretty picture if, in fact, Putin decides he's just going to move all the way